Warning, personal opinions, satirical comedy, and spoilers.
No, that's not 100% like the thing I know that I like and I know. Betrayal! Hello everybody, and ignore that annoying intro. I'm WHYBOY, and this is NERO.
Hello.
And today we are talking about Cuphead. It's like, that's been one of the big shows that we've been really excited for. It's been in talks for quite a while, and Netflix seems to have picked it up and created it into this. And everyone is either happy about it or not.
Yeah, I think the biggest criticism we see lobbed at the whole thing, it's not serialized storytelling, it's episodic.
Exactly. So just automatically when people think of a streaming show, they want to see serialized content. It seems like this very unfair standard that people are holding Cuphead to. And I think it's just because Cuphead was such a landmark game title in 2017 that people were just really hoping for. It's like, I want it to be this, I want to be that. But what is Cuphead, the show, really, now that we have it here right in front of us? I'll go from the game first and then to the show. In the game store, we have Cuphead and Mugman, two rascally kids out for a stroll and all that when they happen to go to the Devil's Casino. They gamble away their souls, and to get back their souls, the devil sends out his bounty hunters to get everyone else's souls that he has on his hit list. And it's basically just, a boss rush, just beating up bad guy after bad guy until they beat up the devil at the very end.
So to be clear, very different medium.
Very different medium. Video game boss rush to this, which is just an episodic comedy.
In this show, they're taking all these NPCs basically and converting them into almost a rogues gallery for Cuphead and Mugman to interact with.
Basically not creating sort of a boss rush as we saw in the game, but basically creating a whole world for Cuphead and Mugman to exist in.
If they adapted this one-to-one, they would have arguably burnt through material for multiple seasons wholly in one season.
That's just sort of my argument on it, because it basically creates sort of a repeating pattern of a confrontation that Cuphead and Mugman would have to go through. But to go one-to-one with the game, you would basically be beat bad guy, move on, beat bad guy, move on, beat bad guy, move on. And that would just be repetitive after a while.
It's funny because I think some critics might have said that the show's repetitive simply on the grounds of Cuphead is an idiot who gets up to no good, his brother usually has to bail him out, calamity ensues, and then they have to kind of figure out the solution to the problem that they themselves caused.
Really, that's just like any sort of episodic series and all that.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like Simpsons, Family Guy, or anything like that. It's just characters who get up to shenanigans, and then they get into a weekly shenanigan.
Good use of the word shenanigan.
Yeah, but really it just sort of distinguishes a repetitive show from a show that actually has more defining character to it. It's just sort of the character dynamic and the world building within the show that basically makes it more lively and fun each episode.
So, okay, characters, I guess. Cuphead is rambunctious, nice kid, really dumb. We cannot stress how dumb this kid is.
Because he is well-meaning in the end.
Yeah.
He's not trying to be stupid and all that. It's just how his brain works. And so him getting his shenanigans isn't really annoying to see, because you basically just still get to enjoy how he gets out of trouble even with his stupid brain.
It'd be much worse if he was intentionally venomous like the Teen Titans from Teen Titans Go. You still want to be able to kind of like your protagonist to some capacity, and you kind of want to avoid that thin line of getting into annoyance territory, and I think that's where SpongeBob is for a lot of animation viewers, is that SpongeBob has that very, very thin line where SpongeBob can be delightful and upbeat, and then there's those other times where it's I can't stand you.
Yeah, and what basically helps Cuphead and Mugman specifically, in terms of not falling into that annoying category, is their brotherly dynamic, because it creates sort of a loving but also nurturing environment between them, so that even if they do fight, they do just sort of yell at each other or anything like that, there is well-meaning behind it that basically allows it to not be mean-spirited, and to basically have a fun back and forth between the two.
So what about the inclusion of NPCs? Obviously Elder Kettle's their caretaker, Ribby and Croaks or Pork Rind. How do you feel they did with these NPCs in terms of taking bosses and making them into just sort of Looney Tunes-esque antagonists who get to show up and interact with our characters, even if it's one-off situations?
I think you basically just sort of just simplified it right there. It is just sort of a Looney Tunes-esque antagonist sort of scenario, and I feel that they do add them in quite well. Basically giving them each sort of their own internalized motive and all that, rather than the game where where basically all their motive is just sort of like, we gotta beat up Cuphead so that we don't have to give up our souls. Like, it creates much more dynamic in terms of like what you can do with each one of these characters and all that. For the vegetable gang, you can make them little gangsters. For King Dice, you can give him his own TV show that he can basically play around in. For Pork Rind, you basically can make him into a much more present character, always in Cuphead and Mugman's lives, basically being pissed off at the annoying kids, but also being around to be a shyster to try to squeeze all the money they have out of their pockets.
I think for me, the breakout best character, it's the devil. My goodness, just like Luke Millington Drake's voice for this character is just so fun and charming.
Why don't you just save us both some time and just take it off?
Fat chance!
Oh! Take it off and I'll give you $10.
Oh boy, $10!
I adore him so much. I want to see more of this character. He only was in 4 episodes, which to be fair, I think that means he got the most out of the season than any other antagonistic character. But I like him so much, but at the same time, it comes down to, it's like having a treat. Chocolate's great, but if you have chocolate all the time, eventually you're going to be like, chocolate's not so great anymore because you have it all the time, and then it becomes less special.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's just sort of what this show really just sort of like came down to. Almost like a less is more sort of angle to it. Because even though we would joke about the fact it's just like, wait a minute, King Dice had all that promotion and all that, being Wayne Brady and all that. The minimal time we've had with each one of those characters, it makes each one of their appearances that much more memorable. And you'll love King Dice because he is just so wonderful.
Animation.
The animation is just wow. I just don't really understand how people can be so angry at this show when the animation is literally just so good. Like, obviously it has the 1930s rubber hose sort of style and all that. Basically making it sort of has a graininess in the background, basically giving a little shadows to the characters, basically make them seem like it's like that old style upsell animation where they're basically, you know, in front of a background and such. Like, it has such detailing like that that's already beautiful. But then you throw in the stop motion animation throughout.
I was thinking about, like, I can't remember which episode it was. It was definitely one of the episodes with, the devil, where he gets so angry he just shifts into all these forms, and there's such a fluidity to the different forms he takes. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm really looking forward to season 2 of this, because contrary to popular belief, where everybody says like, oh, it's episodic, it's not serial, there is some serialized storytelling in this, and we're going to get more in season 2.
Yeah, exactly. And we see an opening for season 2 coming at the very end of the season. Like, there is going to be serialized elements and such to basically draw people in, but it basically becomes more digestible by making it episodic.
I think that's the key. Inviting. But it is there. I mean, the fact that the first episode sets up the idea that Cuphead is the one that got away, and now he wants his soul, and then that comes back periodically in other episodes, that's serialized storytelling.
Yeah, exactly.
The potential is there. We've only just scratched the surface of 1 season.
Yeah, and we literally have an entire rogues gallery left of basically of bad guys that could appear in season 2.
To wrap it up, is there anything you think would improve in another season?
No, personally, I don't feel there's anything too wrong with it to basically say that it needs improvement and all that. I believe it succeeds in what it wants to be. It wants to be a world for Cuphead, but this is the show that basically shows you just little stories within the Cuphead world, and I think it does a beautiful job at that.
Okay.
Now, what about you?
More musical numbers.
That is definitely more musical numbers is always good.
And this one, it's like the music's good. It's not enough of it.
And I think that's just what we're going to get the same of in season 2. Because also there's the issue of timing and all that. And if you really want to set amount of time each 11-minute episode, do a musical number. When you could just have more comedy bits.
You could knock this out in like roughly like 3 hours. You just sit down and just power through the show.
And I think it would be definitely worth a watch.
Oh yeah, but the bite-sized nature of it makes it easily digestible if you're not a masochist.